Hello, YouTube. So, politics sucks, right? Most of the time, when there's no major issue and no elections happening, the average person doesn't even want to talk about it. The general consensus is that politicians are terrible, the system is broken, and things need to change. Well, I agree. I'm going to present here one major change I think would go a big way towards fixing politics. The main change I would make is this. Make politician a profession. By that I mean being a politician should be the same kind of job as being a doctor or a lawyer. Becoming a politician would require a specialized postgraduate degree and would require certification from something equivalent to the Bar Association for lawyers. First and foremost, this would ensure that everyone in elected office is at least competent enough to pass the postgraduate politician program and to get certified by the Politics Bar Association and is ethical enough to keep that certification. To make this work, the pay for elected officials would have to be on the same level as that of doctors and lawyers. That would attract the best of the best to elected office instead of the class of people we seem to have now. So that's the basics of the idea. Now let's get into the details. Ideally, the postgraduate course for becoming a licensed politician would be absolutely free, but would require high grades and good references to get in. Students in these programs would be trained extensively in history, law, political procedure, public speaking, and ethics. The idea would be that these programs would produce the best politicians possible. I would ideally like the failure rate for this program to be quite high as well, to further ensure that only the best graduate. That being said, there would have to overall be tons graduating at first to fill all the elected offices in the country, and these changes, if they were to be put in place, would have to be rolled in over time, with current politicians perhaps being allowed to take a test to gain a politician's license. Beyond this, I would have every election paid for by the city, county, state, or country depending on the level of the election. The politician should not have to spend any of their own money to run for office. In fact, they'd be forbidden from doing so. But at the same time, they would be strictly forbidden from accepting money or payment of any kind other than their official salary. And unelected politicians would be able to get other jobs in government, but would be barred from working in the private sector. The idea here is to remove the conflicts of interest and downright corruption that naturally occurs from money being involved in the political process. If politicians want to secure elected office and the high pay that comes with it, they're going to have to follow the rules, and that means no working for private companies and no soliciting donations from wealthy people. Also, after a certain number of years in service, a politician would be given a pension for as long as they continue to not work in the private sector. Since they would not be legally allowed to take payment from anyone else, this pension would act as further protection from the temptations of corruption. The idea here is to make politicians a separate class of people, well-educated, intelligent, not necessarily from wealthy origins, but who devote their lives to the state and are well compensated for it. The genesis of this idea is my belief that the best of the best should be the people in charge. I don't subscribe to the idea that just anyone can and should be able to get elected. I hate that the political system is currently designed to essentially encourage corruption by forcing candidates to solicit donations from the wealthy, and only wealthy people can afford to actually run for office. I also dislike the fact that politicians can and do slip back and forth between politics and the private sector, which to me is akin to someone slipping back and forth between being a police officer and a gang member. In my mind, it's the primary job of politicians to ensure that corporations aren't screwing over the population, and having a politician come straight from a corporate job or having a corporate job waiting for them after retirement creates a serious conflict of interest and has contributed to the current problem we have, which is that essentially the entire Western world is run by corporate oligarchies of one sort or another. Now, I'm sure my more libertarian viewers are going to have serious problems with this idea, since in many ways it expands the role of the state, and certainly involves more money being quote-unquote stolen from people via taxation and given directly to politicians and funding election campaigns. To that I say, that while I agree that many things currently funded by the taxpayer should not be, the political process itself and the people who represent us, all of that should and I think must be funded by the taxpayers in order to keep it as free from corruption as possible. We can talk about what should be cut to pay for these expenses at another time. For now, I'd ideally like to hear your feedback on this idea from the perspective of it being or not being a realistic change to the current system that would address the concerns of people who think politicians are all corrupt and the system is broken and corrupt itself. I, for one, think if this idea were implemented, it would be a complete game changer. I look forward to reading your comments. As always, I'm positive improvement, and I wish you all the best.